the share prices are going through the roof. So
Imagine what they'd be like if you actually made a profit.
yeah.
Oh, did you see Husky Energy sold for 3.5 or whatever billion?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You know, your former CAO, his father-in-law is the owner of Husky Energy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, feel free to start.
All right. It's my watch is about 9:05, and we will begin the meeting. Call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. Anything to add? I have one thing to add on item C, C1, Coyote Creek, under business arising. Paul, do you have anything?
Nope.
Bill?
Nope. I'm sorry.
Any? Good. Okay.
Nope,
So can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Sure.
Thank you. And so we'll go to the last meeting. And the motion to approve the minutes of last meeting.
Sure.
No changes?
I had none.
No, I didn't have any either. Okay, that brings us to business arising, I guess. Bill, and I guess that's mine. I just wanted an update on where we were on the Coyote Creek. There was we're going to look into boring or seeing some evidence.
yes, we've retained a consultant to do the structural assessment.
Okay. And you got a time frame on that?
I'm hoping this month.
The end of this month? You mean October or November?
I'd say 30 days. There's not a firm date, but
Okay. So sometime in November.
yeah.
And what is he doing, Bill?
A series of boreholes to test the structural
Okay.
adequacy and determine if an overlay would be adequate.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
No delegations, unfinished business. Page 5, hard service policy, Bill.
Yeah, so this is as a result partially of our ongoing Coyote Creek discussions, road discussions. If oil treatments are as economical and beneficial. Currently with our Coyote Creek test trial and just the contemplation of hard surfacing it, we're still hesitant to really promote it or give the impression to ratepayers that more of these projects are going to be encouraged or permitted. So this policy revision would kind of put the brakes on further cold mixing stabilized oil projects. But in the same token, that wouldn't prevent the MD from undertaking additional trials if council desires.
So I have a
So
question.
is it your, go ahead.
So Diamond
Paul.
Drive in East Exshaw, or in the Exshaw Industrial Park, has a tremendous amount of heavy traffic on it. Like it's got Super Bs on it, full of rock, Rundle rock. And that is a cold mix asphalt product. It's been there for about 12 years. It's still in pretty good shape. This policy says now that if that starts to break up, and remember that's a revenue generating area, it starts to break up, that we don't have the option then of going back and redoing it with the same product.
So I missed half of the discussion. The internet cut off. No, on Diamond
okay,
Drive, we'd actually go in and. I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I'll say it over again, but go ahead.
Yeah, on Diamond Drive, we'd simply just overlay it with pavement. We
Why?
found the initial cost to be quite similar to pavement, actually.
Okay, well, the companies that used to do it don't do it anymore. Okay, so then, and we don't currently have any oiled roads except for Coyote Creek.
Coyote Creek, Diamond Drive would be the ones I'm thinking of quickly. We might have one or two small portions other than that. But
So what you're doing here is you're taking away any option except for hot mix as a road surface.
yes, currently, yes. Or gravel.
Other than gravel.
Okay.
Gentlemen, sorry to interrupt. Let's try and maybe turn our videos off and see if that helps with us staying connected better. Thank you.
Which
Sorry.
Paul?
I'd like everybody actually, if everybody can turn just their video off. Let's see if that helps our connection.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone can hear me. My internet's, my connection's on and off, but I guess with that, the discussion at hand would be, are we prepared to move the revised policy to council, or does this need further discussion or edits?
So I do have a question. So Coyote Creek Road, you're about to do some geotech in there. And what if it comes back that the subsurface actually is full of organics? This doesn't give you the option. I guess you just turn it back to gravel, does it?
Yeah, I'd like to have the, I'd like to get the information, then we can have that discussion. I don't think our hands or the MD's hands are tied on that.
So why not just let this sit until we see our geotech then, to make sure that we're not writing a policy then that prohibits us from anything other than incurring a major expense in an area that you would never normally pave.
That's true. I guess the policy is to prevent other people from doing the initial treatments. Coyote Creek was actually cheaper, using oil to put in, it's the life cycle cost and the ongoing cost and the frequency of rehabilitating the surface. So it's the only rush would be to prevent other people with the expectation that they could oil a municipal road and expect the MD to maintain it at those additional costs.
You mean prevent someone from building a new road?
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm not aware of any subdivisions right now, applications or anything that are in front of us where we might see a road built in the, I don't know how long.
Yeah, no, that's true. Or it could be an existing road that someone wants to just do the cheap treatment to with the expectation to turn it into pavement after.
And do we have any developments right now that have roads being constructed that could be done on?
Not that I know of.
So then this is a solution in search of a problem.
I don't think so.
Well, if there are no pending ones and there's no way of someone coming in and applying this policy to any roads, why would we amend this policy to narrow our options on a road that we are trying to find a solution for?
I don't think it would narrow our options because council always has the ability to make the decision.
To override
So as an example, North Jamison Road is with an MD road allowance. It's gravel. Someone could propose that, even though it's a non-maintained road, but it just prevents that expectation.
And you could say, well, the policy is currently under review. We're just waiting some geotech work on one of our existing roads. I am seriously questioning amending a policy when we are trying to ascertain the integrity of a road base for certain treatments, and all of a sudden you're taking away one of our options. And I'm being concerned that this is a preemptive policy change intended to take away the option. And I don't think it's appropriate for this to go through until we know what's under that road.
Well, are you suggesting we table this, Paul? Postpone it?
Well, just
until we
postpone
get
it
the
until
results?
we receive the geotech work on our current on the current road.
You want to make a motion on that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to postpone it pending the geotech work on Coyote Creek Road.
Okay, I'll agree to that. So that's passed. So we'll delay this bill to go to council until we get some results and some more science behind it. Just as a discussion, Paul, you travel around with SEWA through a lot of different municipalities. You see other types of roads that are built in other municipalities?
Yeah, Foothills County or Foothills has a road rehabilitation program that sees, I believe, and Bill can correct me, 10 kilometers of road every year is done with a recycled asphalt product. And I'm on one of those roads on a regular basis, and it doesn't have a problem. I talked to the guy that was responsible for that, and that is why you're doing a geotech on Coyote Creek, because he said if you've got a good road bed, that stuff works fine. So it's used in a lot of places. I'm concerned that we are creating a situation where it's going to be incredibly expensive for anybody to build a road, and incredibly expensive for the MD of Bighorn to be able to maintain one. So but yes, they do. Foothills is the one that comes to mind the most because I'm on one of their roads on a regular basis, and that's what that stuff is. And they have a lot more traffic on that road than Coyote Creek does.
Yeah. Well, my experience with cold mix was on the Alaska Highway. Is that that was the first version of anything that looked like pavement, and it really didn't stand up at all. But I mean, it was the only thing it did is reduce the amount of gravel that got thrown at you going up and down the highway.
Mm.
But the end result is, I believe, and I haven't been up highway for some time, is they went back to just a paving, asphalt paving. Now, Paul, the recycled asphalt, are you suggesting that they tear up an existing road and recycle the asphalt, or they bring in asphalt from somewhere else?
They actually do both. We're in the process of redoing the access road to the Francis Cook landfill. And it gets more traffic in a day than Coyote Creek gets in a year. And we did that with recycled asphalt at the same time we did Diamond Drive. And that road lasted 12 years. And we're just now having to go back and redo it. And once again, it's the road base. If you've got a good road bed, it'll last. If you've got organics in there and it's heaving up and down, it doesn't last.
No, that's right. Okay, so we'll move on to East Exshaw lane grading.
Yeah, at the last meeting, the committee asked to bring back the engineering, and this is the full engineering that was done as part of the emergency response, and then a short memo after in August. I don't know if that's providing enough information to the committee, or what additional information would be required, or how to move forward with this.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so we have a memo. Bill, it looks like there's 3 options that'll work. Depending on where you are. Am I reading that right?
No, there's just, I read it differently, that there's 3 cross sections. Unless you're talking about my options in my memo. I'm just saying there could be other possible cross sections that might work with section B and C. Where maybe it could be crossfalled instead of center swaled. And maybe crossfalled with a ditch towards the north on section B and towards the east on section C.
And towards the west on section A?
No, section A it couldn't because you have properties there.
So it's got to be a center swale.
It would have to be a center swale with some fills on property line. But
Okay.
because B and C are undeveloped lands, there that option might exist. And
Well, except it's
discussing.
on section C, though, it may not be developed, but it's private. Is it not? So the section C, it's private property on both sides. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So we would not have an option where we could actually see it drain on the private property. Is that correct?
We could talk and work with the developer and his engineers, or the developer's engineers, I should say.
I'm sorry, Bill, I kind of lost track of why we would do any work on these lanes.
I'm sorry, Paul, that kind of cut in and out.
Okay. What is the need for grading these lanes? Is it a water issue?
A stormwater issue. It is part of the East Extra stormwater management plan. The concept. The issue was came to light this past fall when people were putting their hoses into the lanes, and the lanes to drain their basements and crawl spaces, and were pumping into the lanes. So it would be beneficial if we could get some positive drainage to that area. And this was one of the options we were looking at during the 2020 response. Instead, we went with a pipe header, which worked quite well as a temporary solution, where people put their hoses into a pipe and it contained the water, but it blocks access to lanes, to driveways, and is really not a permanent solution.
Well, it also blocked emergency vehicle access as well.
Yeah.
But it worked quite well. So what is your plan with this, Bill? What are you?
Well, this is the information that I was asked. I can talk to the developer. Rob, you might have to give me some caution here, if this is the right time or not. I could also prepare more. It would cost a little bit more money, but along cross section A, I could ask the consultant to prepare more cross sections to illustrate it better than just the one. But right now, moving forward, unfortunately, there's the Extra stormwater master plan has put on hold, and this project isn't really moving forward. And residents did express their concerns during the flood.
What was her concern?
About the grading of the back alleys, and
People were pumping out their basements into the alley, and then the alley was flooding into other people's basements.
Okay, so it's drainage. Okay.
So,
okay.
Bill,
And no.
I mean, if we have a similar event, or an even lesser but similar event, putting in those manifolds to pump water. I mean, this seems to me to be, if I'm looking at all of this, if you were to do a center swale on all of them, on section C, you would not be having to deal with a landowner wanting to pump water onto their property, which I'm sure would be an interesting conversation. Would you not be able to move ahead to put in drainage swales in each one of these ahead of spring groundwater rising, or heavy rainfall, stormwater, or any of those things? This would really have nothing to do with Jura Creek.
That's it. It has nothing to do with Jura Creek. The problem is there'll be an expectation that it can just be accommodated with a simple center cut, where the design requires fill along property lines. So people are going to, residents would likely complain that we're trapping their water from getting out of their yards, and that we're raising the grades at the property line, into their driveways, across their driveway approaches. So I think that's the greatest challenge, is there'd be a difficulty, a gap in the expectations of what we can provide and what people are envisioning or expecting.
Yeah, so it's been my experience that you will have 50% of the people in favor and 50% of the people opposed, because any solutions that have ever been proposed in East Exshaw have been met with support and an equal amount of opposition. And while one person doesn't want it, the next person does. And as a matter of fact, when we put a drainage ditch in on McGilvery, the folks that live down Pigeon Mountain did not want one. We did not put one there. And then in 2020, there were some very unhappy people because there wasn't one there. And then there was one created there by people. So you have a potential mitigation design here. Why would we not do the same thing with this as we did with the original initiative for stormwater, which is to put in some ditches that did work, and circulate to the people down there, advising them that we will be doing some work in the alleys to prevent water from the alleys going onto people's property, and it will include slight raising of the alley at your property approach to prevent water from the alley running into your property, and promote water flowing through the alleyways. Why would we not try to do something with this?
If the Streets and Roads Committee is happy doing that, we could move forward on that premise.
Well, I just know how much it costs for those pipes, Bill, and
Yeah.
and you know, and then what was required with them. And the problem was, as long as one person was still pumping into the pipe had to stay for the whole length of the alley, which aggravated a bunch of other people. So I don't think we could ever, in my lifetime or a future lifetime, come up with any kind of a plan that would satisfy everybody. But I think if we try to find one that has the most benefit, then I think we should try to move it forward. I mean, if it was me, I'd draw it up and I'd hand deliver it to every single one and say, this is what we're proposing for the laneway. And this is what it will do. Please review this and comment.
Okay, for the next meeting, then I can draft that letter.
Yeah, I'm sure that you will agree with me that that pipe was a great solution, but it's not a good solution.
The pipe was a necessity.
Yeah,
and it worked.
It worked great.
But it's not a
That's
permanent
right.
solution.
Yeah, Bill, I've got a question for you. I mean, really, the last McGilvery and Pigeon are basically flat. It's going to be very hard to go back and try to retrofit grades which will move water. Do you think that putting in drainage swales at the front of the property will alleviate the problem if we have another groundwater issue? Not storm, but groundwater.
Are you you're not talking back alleys, you're talking front roads?
I'm talking front roads.
Yes, anything like that would be beneficial.
Because that was the original plan and they turned it down, as I recall, because they were going to have to pay for it.
But we did it on McGilvery. Actually, one, they weren't going to have to pay for it, Robert. The other one was we did it on McGilvery, but it didn't do anything to stop basement flooding on McGilvery. As a matter of fact, I think McGilvery had more damage done in basements and crawl spaces than Pigeon did.
It'd almost been better, this is me looking hindsight, if you were to build the front swales and then you laid that header pipe in the swale and everyone connected to it, might be another solution too. I don't know.
That would be a very expensive one. I mean, I'm looking at this with my rubber boots on, and people are pumping into the alleyways. Where they have a swale, they're pumping into it, but it never stopped. It never did anything. It's only a way just to get the water to move.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the alleys that were flooding other people's properties. So, I mean, I think this is a pretty cheap solution to just get water to move.
When we were talking about stormwater water management on East Exshaw, I thought the problem was that getting the water out of East Exshaw was a major problem. You know, you could get it out of the immediate area, but there was no place to put it.
Yeah, so what they did was they brought in a big pump and they put it down by our lift station, and then they pumped it across the highway, through the ditches, and then got rid of it. And in the stormwater management plan, you can actually see that. So if the trick is to get the water away, if you pump out your basement and you're not pumping it into somebody else's basement, I mean, the manifold worked like Jack the Bear. I don't think you'd be able to bury it, Robert, on the street sides, because there's other stuff in there. Because there's other stuff in there.
Lay it in the ditch.
Lay it in the ditch.
Lay it in the ditch when an issue arises, and we'll do it beforehand, because we literally know within a few days of when the flooding is going to happen if it does for basements. So we could lay it all out and have it already pre-done, and then wait.
Everybody's driveway approach is gone.
Well, they park on the street then. Take a driveway approach out for a week, or have their basements flooded.
So dig out a whole bunch of culvert driveway approaches and lay this pipe in, and then deny everybody access to their driveway.
Well, I would try to find a way you could put the pipe underneath the driveways, but that's the grade issue then. As I said, it's flat as a pancake down there. It's hard to get any type of grade.
So why not take the easy solution and create a drainage swale in the alleys? And then at the end of the alley, create a way for it to leave the alley. In other words, what you're just saying, basically, if we had a temporary ditch at the end of the alley, the water would grade down to the ditch and do exactly what it did when we put the manifold there, which is then just travel through the existing drainage. This is about promoting water out of the alley and away from people's houses. And this will not require a bunch of excavators to go in there and tear out people's driveways approaches and then put them back again. Rather, this would be go in there and put in a center swale with a slight fill on both sides, so that you basically have a trough for an alleyway.
Bill, what are your thoughts on that?
You don't need to go and lift it in and out.
What are my thoughts? First of all, I don't think there's a perfect solution, because the grades are so.
Good solution, Bill.
Yeah, well, so the idea of a ditch, that ditch gives you the capacity of the pipe. So on McGilvery, the ditch or swale actually worked quite well on the southern portion of the road. Further up, it did not. We had to have a pump there because of the volume and because the ditch basically grades out. So I think the rear lanes would help. Everything would help. Everything would make it a bit easier. Even on Pigeon, if there was that front swale, front ditch, that would have really helped us out, the residents and the operations crew, to get that drainage.
Well, this wouldn't preclude us from doing that in the future, because we're going to have some engineering work done with some mitigation recommendations in it. Doing this would not preclude any of that. All that doing this would do would be to solve an issue that was identified in 2020 in the alleyways, which was that the water wasn't leaving. And so if you were to create a swale in the center of it, you would be able to promote the movement of water, because you would be building in a natural grade. So it would work like another ditch, basically, except it's a really wide, shallow grade ditch instead of a steep grade ditch. but those alleys were filling up full of water. They were basically turning into ponds. And so when the engineers looked at this and when I looked at the drawings there, the only one that I see that could actually work without having major issues, if we want to slow it down, let's go and talk to the landowner about draining onto his property, and you should be able to kill this pretty quick. Or we can provide a solution that we control the property on, which is the swale in the middle. And the engineers seem to have drawn up how that can work.
Bill, do we also need
Uh,
ditch swales for pigeon, front ditch swales?
It would be beneficial, but it wasn't well received last when we
Unless it's
proposed.
regardless of what, they may be very receptive now, but if it doesn't work, you know, they're going to lynch everybody.
They're going to lynch somebody anyway. I would love to see the same thing on Pigeon as we had on McGilvert. You know, I had discussions with people down there in 2020, believe me. And I looked every single one of them in the eye and I said, and you objected to it, and you objected to it, and you objected to it. So if you guys are pissed off, talk to them. Probably not the best curbside politics, but nonetheless, credit where credit is due. But I mean, we can go ahead and do the regrade of the ditches, which will not piss anybody off. And then go back and say, okay, guys, now really to make this work a little bit better, we need to put those ditches in front of Pigeon. And so here's what we're going to do. We'll be here on this date and we're going to put them in. Please make sure you don't have anything in your driveway. It's not a consultation. It's just advice that it's going to happen. And we may have to do that in the future.
Is this going to exacerbate the overland flooding possibility if we start putting berms on the boundaries of people's property?
So it's not a berm, Paul. It's just a slight elevation and grade. As a matter of fact, from what I'm seeing there, it looks like what you cut out of the center will just get graded up to the side. So it's not a berm. It's not going to be a retention item. And I can't see how it would, if we had overland flooding, how it would affect it anyway. It wouldn't slow anything down and it wouldn't speed anything up. It'd just be another little place for water to collect.
Okay. Where are we, Bill, on this after the discussion? Is there something you'd like to do?
If I'm interpreting the conversation correctly, what I've heard is to present the concept to the public. That's what I've heard now. It's just the process and the mechanics of that, the details of that. Is it to get feedback, or is it based, this is what we're doing, has a decision been made to do this? If so, that likely probably would be an information report to council then, I think.
It might be a recommendation to council to move forward with this.
Yeah,
The
I like that, Rob. I
operate
like
like
that.
this. Yeah, the committee can't be given direction to admin to do this project. It should go from council.
You've heard me say that how many times? So yeah, I think so, Bill. I mean, and I don't. This is not going to be. Gee, so do you need 50% plus one of the residents down there to agree to it? This is very much going to be, you know, in recognizing the value of the manifold pipe that was placed in the alley, in the alleys. That we will be moving forward with creating a drainage swale in the middle of each alley with slight fill to the sides. And then it's just circulated to everybody, let them know what's going on, and sit back and just gauge the reaction. Never mind, are you going to stop it? But I mean, if you get every one of them coming up and saying, we don't want it, we don't want it, we don't want it. What are they doing for you then? Basically
Yep.
absolving you of your liability?
So, Paul, just so I interpret this, are you suggesting that we put this letter up and say, this is what we're going to do, and wait for a reaction
And
from
do
the
it.
residents?
And do it anyway.
Do it
You're never,
anyway. Okay,
you're never going to get agreement down there on anything.
okay.
So you have an engineering report that suggests that you could have some mitigation here. And we do know what happened, and everybody remembers it. You know, the same people that are going to complain about the ditch are the same ones that complained that you didn't have a way for the water to get out. And then when they were pumping into it, they complained that it was there. So, I mean, the environment down there is going to be such that we probably need to make a decision unless there's 100% pushback. And I would suggest maybe just to move this through the agenda is that I'll make the motion that we recommend this project to council for consideration. Does that work, Bill, for you?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
And in your staff report, I mean, you know, you just note that we had the pipe in there. I'm just reading back here. So we had the pipe in there and the pipe worked quite well, but caused some obstructions and it's not a solution, right?
I'm
It's
sorry,
not
the network cut out, Paul, basically, once you started speaking.
okay. I mean, I just make the motion that we recommend this to council for consideration. And then in your staff report, you can just put in there the history of it with the pipe and all that stuff. And
Okay.
Bill, do you have money in
Did
the
you, Bill?
budget to do this project?
I'm sorry, Rob?
Bill, do you have money in the,
Do we
in
have
the
fun-
budget to this project? Yep, from either from the
I
2021
believe
budget or
there's-
what?
I believe there's, I'd have to check how much is in reserve from the extra stormwater management plan and how much it would cost. There might be
Yes, a
some
piece of
approved funding.
That's a critical piece of
I don't-
information, Bill.
Yeah, and right now I don't even have an estimate of how much this would cost to do.
so why not go get that before we give it to
Um,
council then?
I'm sorry?
Why not go and get that before we bring this to council?
I can do that, yeah, yeah, so there's no expectation then for me to have this at the November council then.
Not from me, no.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you have it in November meeting?
Because you don't have a cost estimate.
Well, that should be pretty easy for McLean to put together, don't you think, Bill?
Yeah, I could ask them the deadline's a week though.
Oh, ask them, see what they say.
5. Okay,
So, and here's the other, just so you know where I'm going to be when it goes to council, is that we are going to pay to grade those alleys anyway as part of our road maintenance. And the only difference is now, do you use a baby grader that has the ability to do a cut and blade up as opposed to a flat grade? So we'll just see where it goes.
Okay,
okay,
do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'm just going to move that this be brought to council for consideration. How's that?
Yep, that'll work.
Yeah, that's fine. But as Ross said, critical part of this is councilors are going to ask where the money's coming from, and because this is not scheduled in the budget, and also, as you know, Paul, and
Paul,
you
you cut
said
out,
it
sorry,
a couple of times. Oh, am I cutting out?
you cut out with your, when you
Yes.
started your presentation to us.
Okay, so that certainly the cost of this is going to be needed for us to go to council for consideration. And the other point is that Paul, you've made this quite clear, is that the solution to the problem is going to be the next problem. So it's a question of how much do you want Bill to Flack to build to take because we went ahead and built this without letting them know we're going to do it.
So, yeah, a couple of things there. One is that Bill said he should be able to get a cost estimate from McElhaney before the council meeting. My comment was that we have to grade these roads, these alleyways anyway. So there is some money there for it. The other problem we've got is that you now have an engineering report that suggests that you have something that can do to mitigate water from the alleys going onto people's property. So let's not let that report get weaponized, but rather use it to go in there and do something that was engineered. So we can go to council and figure out how much it's going to cost to do it. But it cost us a lot of money in 2020. I don't know how much of that would have been saved if this existed, but we probably wouldn't have had to buy those pipes and pay to have them put in and taken out, which was quite significant. So bring it to council for consideration and let's see what council says.
I'm fine with that. You got that, Linda? Hello, Linda.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Linda. I have it, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I guess we're finished the regular meeting, and now we want to go into
Close session.
the second part of the meeting. Leslie, are you still on?
So before you leave that, Paul, and Bill, can you make sure that you attach the technical memo from McElhaney and the drawing to your report to council?
Oh, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Mr.
My-
Clerk, I am here.
Do we just log out of this meeting and keep it open, and then go into in camera and then come back to this one to adjourn?
Yes, you're gonna have to come back to this one to adjourn. I don't know with our internet connectivity if just putting this meeting on hold may cause more grief than necessary. So perhaps you guys may want to close out, go into your closed session, and then come back over here once you're complete to adjourn the meeting. I will leave that up to you guys.
Okay, Bill, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Is there anything in the camera session that will come out that will require us to go back into the regular meeting?
Yes, your motion to
Like
adjourn.
a motion? Yeah, okay. That's the
So
only
to
thing.
adjourn a meeting in camera.
I was thinking of adjourning the meeting right now and then just going to camera for
Oh,
the second
I
meeting.
see.
But I don't know if that's possible or not.
No, just in the case that you may have something that comes out of closed session and a motion to do that. So I would recommend that that's not the best practice.
I would agree too. It preempts the discussion because it assumes that there will be no decision, and there could be.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm fine. Okay, so everybody goes out of this one and then logs into the in-camera one, correct?
Yes, please. And I will stay
then come-
here. I will
and
be
come
on
back.
this side. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. See you on the other side.
See ya.
think. I'll let you in the lobby right now.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, gentlemen, you are ready to continue open session. Mr. Clark, you're, sorry, Mr. Clark, you're on mute.
There you go. Oh,
Here we are. If there's nothing else to discuss, could I have a motion to
yes.
adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks,
thank you,
everybody. Have a good day.
See you later.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye-bye.